Oh, Grandpa, what do you used to use to take your pictures with? Well, we used to use a thing called film, son. That we did, yeah. Well, I used to use this stuff. I used to use 120 roll film, and because of the size of the negative or the transparency, the slide that it produces, the quality from this is exceptional. It really is. Now, these days we kind of rely on things like these and like SLRs or mirrorless cameras, and that, and they're pretty darn good. They really are, especially the high end digital cameras are very, very good. But these analog films, there's something really special about photography that's done with an analog film, such as this 120. Now, this film originally was destined to go into a Mamiya 6x8, I think it is. And, well, it's already been exposed. Basically got fogged. All right, which basically means that loads of light got on it before it got a chance to be exposed properly in the camera. Now, we're going to unroll this in a moment and have a look at it so I can give you an idea what a 120 negative, actually looks like. Now, I have still got all my enlarger gear. Okay, so I could actually print the stuff off if I want to go to the trouble and get the chemistry and all that sort of stuff. You see, I used to print my own images, whether they be colour or black and white, years ago. Now, this isn't actually the largest I've used. Now, I've used plate cameras in the past. I used a Wister 5x4 plate camera. It wasn't very old. I bought it in about 2002, and it was new. I think it was new. Anyway, that's pretty darn new. With a Schneider lens. Very expensive. But that's what we used to have to use, you see. Okay, digital was about back then, but not to the standard that it is today. Now, today, there doesn't seem a lot of point in using film, for run-of-the-mill general photography. No. But, back then, it was the thing. Now, the beauty about the 120 roll film, I'll tell you what, let me show you. Let's bring on the overhead camera over here. All right, here we are. This is the film itself, as you can see. And it comes in a roll. Now, you have two parts, okay? You have the spool, which is generally an old one of these, which is locked into the back of your camera. And then you have your new one, and this one then rolls over onto the existing spool. And then that is the one that you send off to be processed, or you process or process yourself. Now, once you've actually processed, you then wrap this sticky tape around it and then send it off, or let's say put in a dark bag or a dark room and then release the film and put it onto what we called a spiral, a Jumbotron, or whatever system that you have. So we're going to just cut that through there like so. Now, the 120 film, because of its dimensions, it's basically 6 centimeters across here, roughly. It can vary a little bit, but it's 6 centimeters across here. So that's about around 2.5 inches. And then however long it is, and depending on the size of each of your shots, so if it's a 6x8 camera, your actual shot would be 6x8 or 6x7 or 6x6 or 645 or even right up to 6.9 and 6.12. And the bigger the each exposure, the less shots you would get on a roll of film. Now this is just the backing, so it's a light proof backing, so it's non-reflective. And now you can see here is the film. It's fogged. There's no point trying to develop it because it would just be it'll just be black. It'll be black, or it'll be the other way around. It'll be clear. So now the film layer, okay, which is here. All right, this is a black and white. Now I have silver halides. Okay, so there's actually silver in this coating, which will react to the light that's hitting it, and depending on how much light that hits this area here will depend on how much it's been exposed. Now, the other thing about it is when you actually develop the film, it will remove. When you first put it for the developer, it will develop the exposed areas in the varying degrees of exposure, and then all the other areas will just literally be removed once you put it into your what we call the bleach fix. The fixed, or you might say the bleach and bleach fix, or just the fixative, and that will remove all the unexposed areas, all the areas that and just leave the clear areas. Yeah. Now, did I get that the right way around, or was it the way around? Oh, crikey, it's been such a long time, you see. I've got a degree in photography, but it's a long time ago. As you see, here's the other spool. So once you've used it, you keep these, and you can use it again, you see, if you need to. The actual spool itself, because it just tucks in. So when you load the film in the back of the camera, you literally push this little tag through the slot like so. Then using the forward wind on your camera, you then start the film. Now, some of the older cameras would have a little window, a little viewing window on the back of the cam, which would expose these numbers. Now, these numbers would correspond to which, in the position, to which type of camera you've got, and how big the actual negatives or transparencies will be. See, they're all in different positions, you see. Now, the smallest was 645. My favourite was 6x6. And the reason for that is because you didn't need to turn the camera around. It's basically square, you see, so it didn't need to be turned around. You could just have it in the vertical format. And where that was especially good is if you were using a twin lens reflex. And I've had a couple of twin lens reflexes in the past. I had the Yashica 635 and the Mamiya C330M or something that was. I can't remember, that was a long time ago. And as you can see, the amount of exposures you can get depends on the size of the actual transparency. You see this one here, that says 12, that's the 645, 9 and 6. And if we come across here a bit further, see, on 645, on this roll, you can get up to 16 shots per roll. On 6x6, you can get 12, and then 6x7, you'll get 8. Now, there are no corresponding windows for basically other cameras, such as the 6x8, 6x9, 6x12. You have to kind of work out yourself. But the thing is, they all have they work out for you. You don't need to use the little window in the back to see what exposure you're on. Where this is quite handy is when you've got an older camera, or even some of the well, it's still old, but the old Hasselblads, what have you. If you had a little window in the back, you can see how many exposures or whether or not you're exposed. You'd also, in the box, you'd have a little square piece of cardboard which tells you what type of film it is, and you put that into the holding slot in the back of your film back or the camera. If you've got, if you've got like a Hasselblad 500cm or something like that, well then the backs are removable, so it's quite handy to be able to know what kind of film you've got in there. So you can swap the backs over to suit your conditions. So if you are, one day we might be using black and white, such as this is a black and white film, another day you might be using a transparency. So it is a good idea to see what you have in the camera. Obviously you might come a cropper, especially if you've done weddings or something like that, don't advise it. No, don't do it. So that is a 120 roll of film, and it also comes in a 220 format. Not all cameras can hold 220 though, but you can still buy this. You see there's enthusiasts out there who still use 120 cameras, and I am considering doing the same as well. You can get a really nice camera now, oh crikey, for not a lot of money. And it brings back memories, you see. It really does. Now, you can say, I know you're going to think, why would you bother? If you were an artiste and you wanted the best, that gives the best feeling. See, this is analog, this is real. This is like looking through binoculars. These things are digital, and they've got pixels. And depending on the shape of the pixel will depend on the shape, or the definition of your image. Now, in the olden days with digital cameras, the pixels were square. these days, these things, this one has a funny kind of like mottled, like bokeh kind of pixel. It's a bit strange. It's kind of guessing what's next to it, like interpolation. Whereas the definition on a film camera, it varies very much from the speed of the film, because they come in different speeds. Lower the number, slower the speed. Quite a common one would be 50 ASA. Now, 100 would be considered as sort of standard. 200 sort of a little bit faster than standard. A 400 is quite a comfortable film. Now, when you get to 400, 600, maybe even up to 800, the grain definition, the higher the speed, the more grain you will get. Lower the speed, the less grain you'd get. But sometimes you might want the grain. That might be what you're looking for. You might be looking for texture. And if you're doing it for art, well, then that's exactly what you're looking for. So you use the film that suits your photography. Whereas on your phones or your cameras, digital cameras, you would change your ISO or ASA rating on your device, and it does it all internally, basically weakening and strengthening the sensor sensitivity. Anyway, there you go. That is it was a 120 roll, and they are the spools. Great fun. It really was. Yeah, they were the days. Oh, baby. It was a lot of work, and every image counted. You had to... You valued it. Instead of like click, 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 and almost doing almost like a video or a comic strip of images, every image had to count, which means you took your time. You made sure your exposures are good, and you just use meters and what have you, to measure the intensity of the light of the day. It's how it is, or how it was, I should say. But please beat the old like button and maybe subscribe to the channel, a little bell icon, because then you get a warm fuzzy feeling in your pocket every time I upload another video. Toodaloo. Might pause off in the park next time. Kind of did this time, I suppose.